Welcome to ChuckWagon MTG. Thank you for joining us. Today we bring you Dinobots, a red-white Pauper deck. This deck capitalizes on the fighting power of dinosaurs and mixes that with the evasive abilities of artifact vehicles. Plus, you get to play a deck called Dinobots, so what's not to love? So let's start off with the Dino portion of the deck. We have 4 copies of Frenzied Raptor, a 4/2 dinosaur for 2 generic and 1 red mana, and then we have 3 copies of Nest Robber, a 2/1 dinosaur for 1 generic and 1 red mana that has haste. Next, we have 3 copies of Raptor Companion, a 3/1 dinosaur for 1 generic and 1 white mana, and we have 4 copies of Territorial Hammerskull, a 2/3 dinosaur for 2 generic and 1 white mana. When Territorial Hammerskull attacks, tap target creature an opponent controls. Our last creature is at the very top of our mana curve, and we're running 3 of them. Sun-Crowned Hunters. It's a 5/4 dinosaur for 4 generic and 2 red mana that has Enrage. Whenever Sun-Crowned Hunter is dealt damage, it deals 3 damage to target opponent. These dinos are great game enders. Now for the bots portion of the deck. We have 4 copies of Mobile Garrison, a 3/4 artifact vehicle for 3 generic mana. When Mobile Garrison attacks, untap another target artifact or creature you control, and it has a crew cost of 2. This can be used to untap our crewing creature for a blocker, or to untap one of our many artifact lands if we happen to need the extra mana. Next, we have 4 copies of Renegade Freighter, a 4/3 artifact vehicle for 3 generic mana. Whenever Renegade Freighter attacks, it gets +1/+1 and gains trample until end of turn, and it has a crew cost of 2. So, between our vehicles and the dinos crewing them, we have achieved Dinobots. Our land base is pretty straightforward. We have 4 copies of Darksteel Citadel, an artifact land that is indestructible, and we also have 4 copies each of Great Furnace and Ancient Den, both artifact lands, and all 3 of these are going to count towards our artifact count for Welding Sparks. We have 4 copies of Windscarred Crag. Windscarred Crag enters the battlefield tapped. When Windscarred Crag enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. And you can tap it for a red or white mana. And then we have 4 copies each of Mountains and Plains. To help deal with creature threats, we have 4 copies of Caught in the Brights, an enchantment aura for 2 generic and 1 white mana. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature can't attack or block, and whenever a vehicle you control attacks, exile enchanted creature. This works great with our dino-driven vehicles. We have 4 copies of Lightning Bolt, an instant for 1 red mana. Lightning Bolt deals 3 damage to target creature or player. We have this in here because, well, basically it's Lightning Bolt, and 3 damage at instant speed for 1 red mana is just ridiculous. We also have 3 copies of Welding Sparks, an instant for 2 generic and 1 red mana. Welding Sparks deals X damage to target creature, where X is 3 plus the number of artifacts you control. We're hoping to see this after we have a vehicle or 2 out, as well as one of our many artifact lands, so we can maximize our damage. This deck plays rather simply as we try to swing in early for a few points, then wear them down with our dino-driven vehicles. Our Territorial Hammerskull is going to help us swing in for maximum damage. Then, once we get our Sun-Crowned Hunters out, its Enraged trigger will keep your opponent at bay while you set up the kill, or simply swing in and they take damage either way. And our 4 copies of Lightning Bolt can easily be used to wrap up a game. Our sideboard consists of 4 copies of Apostle's Blessing, an instant for 1 generic and 1 Phyrexian white mana, meaning you can either pay 1 white mana or 2 life. Target artifact or creature you control gains protection from artifacts or from the color of your choice until end of turn. We're going to be bringing these in against any artifact hate or creature hate decks we happen to run into. We also have 4 copies of Demystify, an instant spell for 1 white mana, destroy target enchantment. This is essentially for any enchantment-heavy decks we happen to be playing against. We also have 3 copies of Fire Cannon Blast, a sorcery for 1 generic and 2 red mana. Fire Cannon Blast deals 3 damage to target creature and has Raid. Fire Cannon Blast deals 6 damage to that creature instead if you attacked with a creature this turn. We're going to be bringing this in for those decks that ramp up into big creatures kind of early. And lastly, we have 4 copies of Tormenting Voice, a sorcery for 1 generic and 1 red mana. As an additional cost to cast Tormenting Voice, discard a card, and then draw 2 cards. This is going to be for any hand disruption that we happen to run into. That about does it for this Dino deck tech. This deck is incredibly fun, and the flavor just can't be beat. If you happen to play this deck at a tournament or even at your kitchen table, let us know how you did down in the comments. We'd also love to hear from any of you that happen to have any thoughts on the deck in general. If you like what you saw here today, click the like button, subscribe, and share the heck out of this. Share it with your friends, your family, your loved ones, your pets. Everyone can use a little more magic in their lives. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, you can find us on Facebook and Twitter, ChuckWagon MTG. Transform!